Rose Sullivan arrived at the Broken Creek Ranch with nothing but a battered suitcase and a letter offering her a job as cook. At 28, she'd left behind a failed engagement to a banker who decided she wasn't refined enough for his social circles. The rejection still stung, but pride kept her chin up as she knocked on the bunkhouse door that first morning, ready to prove her worth in the only way she knew how, through food that filled both stomachs and souls. The foreman, a gruff man named Dutch, showed her the kitchen and rattled off instructions. Breakfast at 5, lunch at noon, dinner at 6. Feed 12 men, and don't expect any complaints if the food's hot and plentiful. He gestured toward the ranch hands gathered outside. That's your crew. Work hard, keep your head down, and you'll do fine here. Rose threw herself into the work with fierce determination. She woke before dawn to start biscuits, spent her days preparing hearty meals, and fell into bed exhausted each night. The cowboys were polite but distant, treating her with the careful respect men show a woman in their domain. All except one. He went by Cole, a quiet cowboy who always sat at the end of the table and rarely spoke unless asked a direct question. He was different from the others, calmer, more observant, hands that were work-worn but somehow gentle when he passed her serving dishes. While other men wolfed down their food without comment, Cole always thanked her quietly, and sometimes she'd catch him watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. That Cole fellow seems different, Rose mentioned to Dutch one afternoon while kneading bread. Dutch chuckled. Cole's been here longer than most, knows this land better than anyone. Good man, keeps to himself mostly. Rose found herself looking forward to Cole's quiet presence at meals. He started staying after the others left, helping her wash dishes without being asked. They talked about small things, the weather, the horses, her recipes. He told her about growing up in Texas. She shared stories about her grandmother's kitchen where she'd learned to cook. Slowly, something tender began growing between them, fragile as new grass. One evening, 6 weeks into her employment, a fancy carriage rolled up to the ranch. A man in an expensive suit emerged, and Rose watched from the kitchen window as the ranch hands straightened their postures. Cole, however, walked forward with easy confidence and shook the man's hand, leading him toward the main house Rose had never entered. "Who's that?" she asked Dutch. The foreman gave her a strange look. "That's the ranch owner's lawyer from Denver. Comes quarterly to handle business with the boss." "I didn't know the owner was here. I thought he lived back east." Dutch laughed outright. "The owner. Rose, you've been serving him dinner every night for 6 weeks? That's Cole Brennan. He owns all 15,000 acres of this place." Rose felt the blood drain from her face. Cole quiet, dishwashing cologne the ranch. On the land, the cattle, everything. And he'd let her believe he was just another cowboy. The betrayal hit her like a physical blow. She'd opened her heart to someone who'd been playing a role, watching her. Maybe even laughing at the cook who didn't know she was serving the master. When Cole came to the kitchen that evening, Rose kept her back to him, hands shaking as she scrubbed a pot that was already clean. "Rose, Dutch told me he mentioned who I am. Why didn't you tell me?" Her voice came out harder than she intended. "Was it amusing, watching me treat you like a ranch hand?" "No." Cole's voice was quiet but firm. "After you arrived, I heard you crying in the kitchen that first night. I asked Dutch about it, and he told me about your broken engagement, about how some man made you feel like you weren't good enough." He paused. "I didn't tell you because I wanted you to see me, not my land or my money. I wanted to know if you could care about Cole the man, not Cole the ranch owner." Rose turned slowly. Cole stood in the doorway, hat in his hands, looking more vulnerable than she'd ever seen him. "I've had women come here before," he continued, "all interested in what I own, never in who I am. But you talked to me about your grandmother's biscuit recipe like it was the most important thing in the world. You laughed at my stories. You didn't see my worth in acres or cattle, and that meant everything to me." Rose felt her anger dissolving despite herself. "You still should have told me. You're right, I should have. But I was terrified that if you knew, everything would change. That you'd start seeing me the way everyone else does." He took a step closer. "Rose, I don't need a woman impressed by my ranch. I need someone who sees me washing dishes and stays anyway. Someone who makes me feel at home in my own kitchen." Rose studied his face, seeing the honesty there, the fear of rejection that mirrored her own. Maybe they'd both been hiding, both been afraid of being wanted for the wrong reasons. Your biscuits could use more butter, she said finally, a small smile tugging at her lips. Cole's face broke into a grin of pure relief. Then I guess it's lucky I own a dairy. And there in the kitchen, surrounded by the smell of bread and coffee, two wounded hearts took a chance on something real.